Hello guys, I'm Chris Bolden. I'm an artist in the animation industry, and it's very cool to be here on behalf of my friend Santosh here at AMVA. And I don't know a whole lot about your guys' school or what's happening here, but it appears to be something really cool going on. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm here to share my sort of experience as an artist and my life as an artist in the animation industry. I'm 43. I don't know if that matters, but I've been in the animation industry since I was 27. I started out I went to Art Center, College of Design in Pasadena, and majored in, got a Bachelor of Fine Arts in illustration. So if anybody knows what an illustration major is, that encompasses sort of everything from kind of Hollywood entertainment design work to figure drawing to fine art painting. And so that's pretty much what I built my expertise in, never really intending on even going into the animation industry. And it wasn't long, probably 3 months after I graduated from college, that I met somebody who was working on The Simpsons. And everyone familiar with The Simpsons here? I'm sure everyone watches the show.
Yep.
So, but, and I just had happened to take a perspective class at school, like a required perspective class. And though I was sort of planning on being a painter, like straight off the bat, or working in like a magazine as an illustrator, all of a sudden this job opened up as a background artist, drawing the background layouts for each individual scene on The Simpsons. And like most jobs in Hollywood, a lot of times they want to test your strengths and see if you can do it. So I took a test and they hired me. And I ended up being on the show for almost 12 years. And 7 of those were as a background artist, and then I moved into the color department and was actually a color artist for 5 years. And from there, that just kind of led into my journey as an artist in the animation industry. And since then, I've worked on shows like Axe Cop. Anybody familiar with Axe Cop?
Yeah.
There's a few Axe Coppers here, great show. Another show called Good Vibes. It was an MTV cartoon, like a surfing cartoon. Several pilots. I just got done doing a pilot last year for Dana Carvey called Planet Famous, that he's trying to pitch a new show, and it was a fairly high intense work environment because it was only about two months of production. And then if you guys are familiar with the show Community, their finale last year was called G.I. Jeff, and it was a throwback of the old G.I. Joe cartoon from the 80s. And so I was actually brought onto that show not to do backgrounds, but to design props. And like jetpacks and guns and tanks and helicopters and things like that. So in this industry, you never really know what you're going to be required to do, whether it's design tanks and guns or backgrounds, or when it comes to backgrounds, what type of backgrounds you're going to have to design. So going to school really got me kind of flexible and ready to kind of handle whatever sort of subject matter would come my way. And most recently, I began working on Rick and Morty. I started working on that, not even knowing what the show was. About 3 years ago, I worked on the pilot episode, and they just said that this thing's got a lot of legs, and so far it has. So we just finished wrapping on season 2 of Rick and Morty that'll start airing in June, and eventually, starting in the fall, we'll be implementing season 3. And so, you know, work doesn't come as an artist. Is everybody here an artist or wanting to be in TV in some production, or raise your hands?
And the TV.
Okay. Want to do artwork? How?
I'd be for movies, TV, video games, comics. I have so many plans, but It would probably take a while to explain all that.
Sure, I'm sure. Yeah, and it's all about me today, right? So, but yeah. So just with this industry, it's totally competitive. It's very competitive, you know. And here, me at 43, married, you know, it's like the same sort of fire that burns or like fuels you to not only create work, but once you start getting running the race with other people trying to get those jobs, like things really heat up, you know, and you got to be on it all the time, whether you want to be a cameraman, whether you want to be an editor, an artist for video games. It doesn't matter what it is, but like it starts now, you know, while you're in high school. Like, you know, if you're so lucky that you can decide what you want to do now in the art world, like start burying the hatchet, if you know what that means. It's like, you know, just start chopping at the tree now and get information from guys like Santosh or myself, and what direction that you need to take in order to get to where, you know, 20 years later you've been working in your business, you know, and you're pretty established. So I'm going to show a little bit of work in my portfolio. We can burn through it really quick. If you guys have questions at any time, you can, you know, feel free to ask. So this is a good time to show some of my work. Okay, so first I'm going to show you some of my personal work, and kind of the things that I learned, like from being an artist at Art Center in school, being an illustrator. Hopefully this comes up here. Should come up. All right, there we go. See, it's coming up. Okay, so I'm just going to show you like an example of different techniques that I've learned being an artist, and my own sort of personal concepts that I've worked on. So first I'm just going to show you a few oil paintings that I've done. So this is like an example of my fine art. So I like to do oil paintings, you know, like portrait art. This is actually painted on cardboard. So really, if you like to paint, it doesn't really matter what you paint on. Just get some paint and do it. You know, you learn to paint from models. And everything is just like, you know, when you're in the military or you're playing on a football team, you don't really know like why the coach is telling you to do this and that and the other. But it's all to build strength so you can handle or tackle whatever kind of work is given to you on the football field. So it's the same way with artistry. Is, you know, you may learn how to figure paint, do head portraits, figure draw, learn how to draw the figure, and a lot of times you might not even realize why you're doing it. But eventually, you'll come across you know, a time of life in your game or your career world, and you'll realize that, wait, something that I did way back then I can actually apply to this moment right now. So it may just look like all just paint and canvas, but there's a lot of thinking that goes on when I'm doing a painting that I may end up applying to just a line drawing down the road. Let's see, so these are just other examples of everything from sketching, you know, just being out around the city sketching different locations, whatever keeps the blood flowing and keeps the mind creative. This is you know, when I go traveling, I'll take a sketchbook with me, always drawing, you know. And Santosh again is someone who I've always admired as someone who always has a sketchbook on him, and he could probably show you annals of drawings that just always keeping the brain going, always just consistently drawing and keeping that that creative flow. So these are just around town, Pasadena. These are kind of hard to see. Resolution's not that hot on some of these examples. But these are just like, I do everything from character designs, whatever.
Caricatures?
Yeah, characters, whatever part of like art that I've not challenged myself in, it's always good to at least try it, just to see where you're at. And I don't consider myself the greatest character artist, but I did want to try it. So there was a point where, I was including more characters into my work. And a lot of these are painted, are either hand-drawn or painted in Photoshop. If anyone wants me to stop on one at any point, just say the word. Did you have a question?
Oh yeah, I wonder what that one about, right there.
This one?
Yeah.
That is actually a test that I took. It's from, it was from a Universal cartoon. I think it was maybe like the Great Mouse Caper or something like that.
Great Mouse Detective?
Yeah, I think it was Great Mouse Detective. And so this was a...
I totally forgot about that.
So they gave me a background that was, this original background was just all line work. So I had to take acrylic paint. This is before people started painting with Photoshop. And I had to paint this for a test. And the one below is for the Beauty and the Beast TV show that I did for that. And I didn't get the job, but it ended up in my portfolio. I thought it was good enough. And there it is. So let's see if there's anything else. And then I do my own personal pitching ideas for TV shows and things like that. And some of these are concepts that I had for a TV show a few years ago, like a surfing related cartoon. So this, what I'm showing you is just a lot of my personal stuff where, I wasn't told to do it. I didn't get any payment for it or anything. It was just simply to keep the motors running. So I'm going to jump now to, does anybody here watch Rick and Morty?
Nope.
Yeah. Never heard of that show.
It's
on
been around.
Adult Swim, right?
It's on Adult Swim. It's been around for a couple years.
Really?
And it, well, let me say, it's only been one season, but we just finished producing the second season. And so this is some of the work that I've done on that show, as well as on The Simpsons, Axe Cop, and a few other pilots in between. So in this example, I was told to design a garage for spaceships, like an old junker garage, something you'd see in South Glendale working on Mercedes and stuff. But instead they wanted something that works on spaceships. So the entire concept of this show was, this was a gear city, a lot of gears. So as you can see in the background, I gave them a lot of gears, as well as old spaceships and engines and stuff that this character would be eventually working on in...
Must have been a pain.
What's that?
Must have been a pain.
Yeah, I mean, it's, there's a process. When you see something like this, for example, it looks like a lot of work, and it is, but you just, again, I always draw comparisons back to life, and and the way we progress in life, and that is just one little bite at a time, So, this background was a huge background, but everything that I tackle, I kind of go with it okay, I don't have to finish this whole thing in 2 hours. Yeah, and there's a lot of layers to this background where I started off with a very rough background. I'll give you another example coming up of what a rough background looks like. This is from Axe Cop, their Thanksgiving episode. Wow. And so on Axe Cop, our background requirements were to actually design the background and paint it. So so anything that you see that's in color are backgrounds that I actually painted as
Do you have
well.
to use a lot of reference for certain backgrounds?
Always, yeah.
Whoa.
Reference is key. I mean, these days, I can't think of all the quotes from, famous visionary visual artists and whatnot, but just one of the keys to success in most artistic fields is not ripping off, but borrowing, design aspects and concepts from other people. And granted, those weren't the most creative backgrounds that I really needed much, but as far as getting reference, I looked up a barn to make sure I was drawing the barn right. Again, more backgrounds from different pilot episodes. This is from The Simpsons here. There's George Burns.
Was that the African episode?
This was the Apocalypse Now episode where Homer ends up in this jungle and he becomes a god of this. Being declared.
How about that episode, Chris?
Yeah, it's you'll probably recognize one of the backgrounds, any Simpsons background.
Oh, I see.
Again, this is another Rick and Morty episode. End of time, sort of post-apocalyptic.
Oh, there it
Do we lose it?
Yeah. That's the one where they shit down.
This is from the pilot, the first episode of Rick and Morty. Again, just a fun show. We're able to use crazy styles and shapes, but everything you see is we use reference. This is I didn't design the background of this one. I did the color for.
That product placement though.
It's when Homer was a grunge singer up in Seattle.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this up. That was
Oh,
it was
yeah.
this
Oh,
episode.
That was funny.
Yeah. Have you done any of the backgrounds for Futurama?
No, I don't, but it's funny you mention that because I'm heading over there right after this to pick up the background test.
Oh.
This is not easy for me to ask you, but
I'm not dressed up for you guys.
this is not easy for me to ask you.
It's all right.
Did you do any background and stuff in the Futurama and Simpsons crossover episode?
I didn't. No, at that point I was on. When did that come out? Because I want to say.
It came out last year in November.
Yeah, so I was working on Rick and Morty at that time.
That would have been nice if you've been working on the Futurama and Simpsons crossover episode.
Yeah, that would have been cool. But I was working on a much cooler show at the time.
What's that? It's Rick and Morty.
So this is another idea of the Gear City. And again, all this looks like it takes forever to draw, but it.
How long did it take you to do this background? That's all I know.
To this background exactly, it probably 6 hours, 6 or 7 hours.
Wow.
Maybe.
And it's junk. I mean, literally junk. You use the junk files over there, right?
What's that?
It looks like it's like piles of different junk. Sorry, metal.
It is. They wanted something that looked sort of organic, but something that looked computery at the same time. And what they are, they're they're like servers, server cells inside a planet.
Ah.
And all the wires are connecting to the different parts of the planet. This is from.
So like it's a techno-organic living planet.
Well, it's from an episode called "Scammer Aliens" for Rick and Morty, and these crystals were. They went in there and picked up these crystals, and they were able to help defeat them. Do you have a question?
When you do these backgrounds, do you also use Photoshop and Illustrator?
No, I just use Photoshop. These are all drawn in Photoshop.
So you just use like a drawing pad?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Mr. Chris,
Yes.
you do not color them with colored pencils or anything?
No, these days, I mean, in production, most shows are just strictly colored in Photoshop.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other computer based programs like Flash and Harmony and all these other names that aren't applicable to what I do, but as far as what I do, it's all in Photoshop. So we will kind of rough everything out. Sometimes I have to draw cars.
Ooh, I love that cop car.
getting
Cop. I know
Where's
that
that?
from.
That's a car accident.
yeah, it's a major car accident, and again in like a Rick and Morty post-apocalyptic world. It'll just be a few more here, and then I'll answer. This was from the pilot episode. So this one I didn't design, but I colored. Sort of phallic, but it's fun. Let's see.
Disturbing.
This was they asked me to on one of the last years I worked on the Simpsons. It was the Halloween episode called It's a grand pumpkin mill house. And they wanted the backgrounds to look like original Charlie Brown episodes. So they got me to make sure that the backgrounds looked like they were done in watercolor, even though they were with that Charlie Brown style, yet they were all done in Photoshop. So these are just different examples of what. And I used Charlie Brown reference. I mean, I went straight to It's a Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown and pretty much ripped the skies off, you know, and match the texture for the brushes and things like that, you know.
Excuse me?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever done any of the like Looney Tunes backgrounds or any like kind of artwork like that?
I've not.
Oh.
But I'm actually working on a test right now that is sort of bringing me more into that world. Right now I'm testing for Adventureland. Adventure Time. I'm sorry, Adventure Time. And the backgrounds are more. They're not as like, for example, this background on Rick and Morty is
I forgot his room.
It's a lot of more angular shapes, and the perspective is right on. Whereas on Adventure Time or something like Looney Tunes, the backgrounds are more skewed. They're more.
Yeah, I noticed that because my cousin showed me it.
Yes. So again, working in like on a show like Rick and Morty, it opens you up wide to any kind of environment, and like I got to design this little Tokyo sort of environment, and it took me about 12 hours to complete this background, and they showed it for like 4 seconds.
4 seconds?
Seriously. Wow. Yeah, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of the industry is, you know, a set builder may spend, you know, days on a set building it, and then you only see it for about a minute and a half of the movie, you know, but you know, it's all part of the backbone of the movie, or in this case, the cartoon.
Might be in the art of book, right?
What's that?
It might be in the art of Rick and Morty book, right?
Yes. Yeah, hopefully. And then just be suspended forever. And again, I'm showing you all these gear. I've added a lot of these Gear City stuff to my portfolio just to show other studios that I can get very technical and I can...
Organic?
This is more technical looking stuff, but this is right here is more of an organic type environment. And
so that's why I was asking, because of the gears, I was just thinking if you would work on the Futurama background.
Exactly, yeah. I figured you might be asking for that reason. And but you know what? Before Rick and Morty, I never had anything like that to show for a show like Futurama, but now I do. If they were ever to launch it again, maybe that would be a show that I'd want to go work on. So right here, you're looking at a rough. This isn't a final background for the show.
Oh, wow.
If you look at the line work, like the trees and the umbrellas on the sidewalks and things like that, it's very rough, like almost scribbled. And when I'm producing a piece of concept art for my art director, I'll start with something very scribbly and quick like this, and then give it a color pass just to give them a quick idea of what that area is going to look like.
Have you ever worked on the Star Wars, the new Clone Wars backgrounds?
I've not, but that would be a dream, I think.
Okay.
Did you do any color backgrounds on the regular show?
Like what? What do you mean by regular show?
The show, regular show.
Oh, is there a regular? No, I've not.
Oh.
I'm sorry to be.
J.G. Quintel.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I've not.
Yeah, this looks like the lab from Futurama. So much.
So.
Yeah, actually reminds you a little bit of Palpatine's office.
Yeah, that's why I was asking about the Clone Wars.
You see the city in the background.
You know,
The window,
I may
you
have
can see
actually may have referenced some Clone Wars.
yeah, if you kind of look at the windows, you can see the city in the background of Coruscant.
Or Naboo.
But I wanted to also ask if you ever did any Dr. Seuss reference for your drawings.
We have.
Yeah.
Dr. Seuss?
Yeah, I've noticed.
Oh
a
yeah,
lot
the
of
very
that.
the very last background that I'll get to, you'll see some Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, I noticed.
Oh.
I noticed that on the alien planet with the
Oh yes, we definitely referenced Dr. Seuss for that. So what I'm showing you right here is the rough concept for. This is the design that I showed my art director, and then once it was approved, this is how it showed in the episode. Once it was cleaned up and ready for production.
Which episode?
This is season 2, episode. I want to say like the 7th episode or something like that of Rick and Morty. Yeah, you probably won't see it till a year from today.
Whoa.
It's gonna be a while.
Yeah.
So this is again I'm just showing you guys more environments of different. This next, like, you know, I definitely
the Jurassic Park.
I referenced a lot of Tim Burton stuff in order to get the sort of angles for this
It's also like
castle.
Looney Tunes episode where Bugs Bunny went to Dracula.
Or yeah, the witch.
You guys are very knowledgeable.
That's
Oh. Can you guys guess where I referenced this background?
Oh, is this from the haunted house?
Yes.
Haunted Mansion, Disneyland.
The Haunted Mansion, but I had to do my own version of it. So
Oh, that's cool.
But what was it for?
it was for another Rick and Morty episode. Yeah, all the
If you ever been to Disney World, there's the Haunted Mansion right on it.
yeah, a lot of this is for.
If you've been to Disney World, you know what that looks like.
That actually, I've been to Notre Dame and the gargoyles actually look like that.
I know it's.
So the actual Notre Dame.
Okay, I'm almost through all these. So again, these are just more backgrounds. This is an interior of a lighthouse.
That reminds me of Amnesia.
The sister.
I wish I knew what you guys were talking about. All right. So anyhow, and then I'm getting to this last background that.
That's Adventure Time.
So,
Adventure.
can you guys see the Adventure Time?
What's that called?
Oh, remember the
What's the city called again?
Rainbow City?
No, it's not Rainbow.
These Candyland or something.
He knows about Penny Ward. It looks like something out of.
But
Dr. Seuss.
Yeah, so that's Dr. Seuss too, yeah.
yeah, but it's Adventure Time.
It's Adventure
I think the trees though are sort of Dr. Seussian.
Yeah, there's
It looks like the trees look like cotton candy.
And look at those mountains. I mean, like a patch blankets.
And then you see the big sticks.
The big sticks, yeah.
I like the way you did the swirl around that.
What, you mean the waterfall?
Yeah.
The waterfall?
Yeah.
It's a river, Rainbow River.
If you look at the shape of it.
And here's a giant squirt gun. The creator of the show asked for a bunch of stuff in this background. Everything from phallic imagery to cotton candy to rainbows. And so I gave it all to him and it got approved, and this is what you'll see when the show airs, if it's one of these days.
They specifically asked for that?
They're always, they're always asking. I'm gonna stand up for a second. Yeah, they're always asking for. They have specific ideas of what they want to see in certain backgrounds, and we got a very funny lot of guys running the show, and
Phallic imagery from the popsicles.
but it's all in fun. It's all in fun designing, and so I'm gonna see if I can just get some of these other examples. Any other questions right now? While I pull up these props? Yeah.
I'm getting at the idea about pilot episodes. what it means.
Yes. Okay. So a pilot episode just means it's like a. They should call it a test pilot.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, but
Or a sneak peek.
but they usually just call it a pilot episode. You know, and what it does is they'll create an entire show, do the production on the show, and then.
And I understand that most shows have pilots.
Most shows have pilots, and some pilots will actually get aired, you know, eventually. But a lot of pilots won't get aired. And so for like Rick and Morty, for example, it never, even though we finished the pilot, it never got aired until we had produced the season. A lot of people will produce the pilot episode for just the production studios to see if they'll pick up the entire series. And then some pilots are produced just to see if the public likes it. Like The Simpsons. There was a pilot done on The Simpsons that the public loved, and that's what launched The Simpsons.
Really?
But for Rick and Morty, it was different. It was
the pilot episode for Simpsons.
I don't even remember. I wasn't even in animation at that time.
Well, I was guessing the Christmas special was.
Yeah, that probably was. Anybody else? No, we don't want to talk about too much about The Simpsons today, anyways.
I was actually curious. Have you ever did any animation for video games?
I've not. Well, no, actually, I take that back. I would be lying if I said I didn't. I actually worked on a back before 3D was really big, like what you guys all know as video games. Right before it was venturing into a lot of 3D, I did some backgrounds for Spider-Man versus Hobgoblin. Video game years ago for Way Forward Technologies.
I remember that.
I remember the name. Super Nintendo. It was a long time ago. I think it was Nintendo. Way back then.
But it was like the SNES.
I don't remember a whole lot about it actually.
The Super Nintendo.
So I'm just showing a few examples now of switching to props. So
it's from the community. I saw this episode.
Yes. So this is from the G.I. Jeff episode, and you're gonna see that in designing a prop, like backgrounds are normally for one shot, but a prop may be used for, several. You need to know how to draw them from different angles. So I'm just showing you how. Like for example,
you did all of the equipment?
I didn't do all of it because there were about 4 prop designers that were working on the show.
For Jeff, did you just do the guns and jetpack?
For this show, I did all the jetpacks, and then anything that I show you today is what I did. But there was a lot more because, like I said, there were about 4 other prop artists that I was working with on this show, and they were designing guns themselves, and again, just another example of a rifle. But I'll show you some cooler. There's Cobra Command.
Oh yeah, the Cobra Command.
Yeah.
I remember that episode. This episode, the end of the episode.
Fortunately, I only had to draw that from one angle.
Yeah. One angle?
Yeah, they just showed that once in the opening, and then that was it. So I was fine with that. And then here's some more angles of the jetpack. So it's one thing to know how to design it from one side, but then to be able to flip it around different angles and not relying on a 3D program to do it. Tanks. That's the fun of being, guys. That's the fun of being. If anyone's an artist, an illustrator, or wants to go in the animation industry. That's the fun of it, is that you never know what you're gonna get the opportunity to draw. And growing up, I always loved G.I. Joe. I always loved military, drawing military tanks and whatnot. So when I got asked to be on this episode, I was really excited because for the first time, not only was I gonna be able to design tanks, but the whole world was gonna be able to see them. And different choppers from, it's the same chopper, but I had to draw it from all these different angles, and so every day they were saying, okay, we need yet another angle of this particular vehicle. I had to draw the actual army men, the little figures. it's harder than you'd think because you're thinking figure drawing, how do you draw a figure, but at the same time you gotta like, you're looking at, they wanted them to look as close to the actual little,
People?
what do you call them, action figures. Yeah, so all these action figures laying here were specifically chosen for that shot, and I don't remember why, but let's see, again, more guns, different angles. This was one of the final shots that I got to do before it went back into live action, where Jeff is turning back into a human. So I had, and they wanted these to match the effects to look like kind of a 70s, early 80s sort of He-Man special effect thing. So I sort of ripped that off. Yet another example of the jetpack at another angle, and I know this is really exciting. And then they came back to me at the end and said, we need the jetpack to open and close. So the thing is the way the jetpack is designed, the wings actually wouldn't close the way they ultimately had them close in the show, but the way they're designed, because the wing kind of falls right in between the pack itself. So when I had to design it, it was only from one angle, and they just made the jetpack fall, the wings fall behind it completely, and I don't know if that makes sense, but laser guns, again, just the wide variety of things that you can do as an artist. There's a spaceship called the Polio, and it's in the Dana Carvey Planet Famous pilot that I worked on.
It looks like an escape pod.
It looks like a submarine.
It looks like all those things. It's like a big boob too. But I think that's what they wanted. They wanted something that looked silly, something.
Characteristic?
Yes, something that had some character to it. And there's another G.I. Joe, the Trouble Bubble, they call it. And that's what all the Cobra commanders, officers drive, or their army men. So, and yeah, so that is pretty much my portfolio and what I do in the industry. And I was mentioning, about taking tests and whatnot in order to get new jobs. And you guys have mentioned Futurama, and I kind of joked, but it's true. I've got to go. I'm working on a test right now for Adventure Time to line up the next job, while I'm heading over to the studio where they produce Futurama next to pick up a test to hopefully maybe work for them, but not for Futurama. I guess that studio is producing another show right now. But I could take some questions with our remaining time together.
Did you do any background designs in 2D movies?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm trying to think if I have or not. No, I didn't. I did do some work on the Simpsons feature,
Oh, the movie? She does
Wow. Yeah, but very limited. So as far as movie title is concerned, that's the only thing. But I did work on a music video with, do you guys know, I wish. No, but Tupac Shakur.
Oh yeah,
You guys heard of him?
Yeah, yeah.
So back in the late 90s, he did a music video called Do for Love. And I did like the majority of the backgrounds, painted the backgrounds on that, because his mom, after he had died, his mom wanted a music video for that song, and they produced a fully animated music video that has everything from stop motion on it to a little, from what I remember, a little computer graphics to a lot of 2D animation on that. So with that came and they just wanted the whole gamut. So I did some backgrounds painted in Photoshop as well as watercolor backgrounds as well. And and then I'm just trying to think of anything else. But yeah, no other movie titles at this point.
Oh, man.
We'll see.
That would have been cool.
Yes.
Way cool.
So anybody else? Any more? Yes.
So when you do backgrounds, do you use a lot of complementary colors to kind of make it interesting?
Well, that's a good. Now you're getting into real technical stuff. Because I mean, when you're working with color, you know, that's like the first place you go is complementary colors. You know, to make things look pretty. You want to establish a nice mood. You usually go for complementary colors. If the sun is hitting white pillar, you know, and then you want, Disney is famous for this. You have the kind of orangey yellow sun with the kind of bluey purple shadow. You know, in real life, you may not see that often, but sometimes you'll catch those moments where you'll see that. Or you may see like a more reddish light hitting a building, and then it's casting a more of a green shadow. And but then along with those straight up colors, I mean, this isn't like a color theory video or anything, but with those colors, you know, you have your blacks and whites that you know, either delineate the color and make it grayer or make it you know, paler, more saturated, but yeah. But at this point, to be honest with you, what's your name?
John.
John. At this point, you know, I've painted for so long, I don't even think about it. You just know what feels right when you're painting a background. And sometimes even at this level, I'm not calling myself that I'm at any extremely high level, but I'll think I've done a great background painting. But then the art director will send it back to me, and I'll see the notes that he's done on it, and I'm like, he's totally right. Like, that looks good. And I just wasn't seeing it, you know? So, complementary colors. I love talking color, though, but we can talk color on another session one of these days. Anybody else? Any more questions?
Oh, he does. Right there.
What if you want to just draw just for the heck of it, not like for production or?
Well,
Sure.
Like, I mean, you want to update your skills?
Yes. So can I have this real quick? So I just brought, like, this is an old portfolio of mine. So I'll just kind of show you some examples of what I would do if you were, maybe you eventually want to get into production or not, but you wanted to kind of keep the fires burning inside.
Yeah, like I do for I like to do it for when I'm free time.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So what I would do, what I used to do and still do often, I'm not showing you these pictures for any kind of like laugh or anything. They're just, it's art, you know. And when you're practicing figure drawing, you want to, or when you want to be a better artist, a better draftsman, it starts here. It starts with figure drawings.
Wow.
And
Figure drawings.
yeah, figure drawings, and anatomy, and so this is like the human body is like one of the toughest things to draw, and a lot of people may not think about it, but it really is. And then just the quicker you can begin to identify, you know, the anatomy when you're drawing, and you know, becoming a better artist. And then these are just more examples of just figure drawings in the past. And
wow.
So then, what was your name?
It's Alex.
Alex, thanks for all the questions too. So then here's another thing, is I just take my sketchbook out, and I don't do this as much as I should. Again, I defer to Santosh, who is the king of the sketchbook, always having the sketchbook. But right here are just little poses of different people that I've drawn. And each one of these I drew them in under maybe a minute and a half, you know? And it's all from taking what I've kind of packed in here about figure drawing, and then going out on the streets and then just if I see somebody's pose, like right now, I mean, I can just like look around the room and see how you guys are sitting. The way you guys are sitting, it kind of identifies who you are and what you're feeling right now. And some guys might be falling asleep. I don't know, but it's like the thing is the quicker you can draw somebody and get into that rhythm, it's really good for you. It's really good for your talent. It's good for your artistic strength, your creative strength. And if you can go up to somebody and see them just sitting there, or you see somebody with a certain kind of body structure, and you're like, I want to draw that. It's you can. The more you're drawing, the more you can just see that and scribble it down as fast as you can. And the next thing you know, you've got portfolio pieces. And that works with animals as well. Going to the zoo, and because no animal is going to mind you sitting there and staring at them for hours drawing them. A person will, but an animal, you can go up to the ostrich den and just sit there and stare at them for hours and study the way their heads move and things. And that's what a lot of Disney animators do, or other animators, is they will go to the zoo, they'll go to the Natural History Museum, and they will study the anatomy of like dinosaur bones to see how things move. And in order to, when it comes time for animating, they have a good sense, before they add the character into the character, they have a good sense of how that character would move if that character was a detective, you know? But he's actually a mouse. And so again, these are just more examples of, like you were saying, Alex, just always drawing. Always drawing. It doesn't matter what you draw, but go with your gut, you know? And so whether it's you're drawing, like you find like a picture in a magazine, and you're like, oh, there's a cool dinosaur or something, or a pirate, and you want to draw that, like draw that. Just don't tell yourself, no, don't do that, don't draw that. Just always keep the wrist going, you know? It's a healthy way of keeping your wrist moving. And it goes with architecture as well. And so I'll go somewhere and I'll sit there and draw like architecture, something that looks cool, you know? And then sometimes I'll make up stuff, like spaceships, or monsters, and then again, like, you know, paintings and stuff like that. Just always going. It's our field, you know? It's like if you're a brain surgeon or some kind of physical therapist, you know, you always got to be working with people's muscles and stuff like that, or, you know, might be a bad example, or I bring it back to the football mentality, or basketball, like Kobe, you know? Like, he can't just like take an entire 3 months off, 5 months off between seasons. He's got to be like playing ball every day, you know, for him to be ready. So it's just like in our industry, the animation industry, we got to be like kind of keeping those wheels turning.
Yeah,
Yes?
I also want to ask, how is it possible for you to use the human anatomy to create, like, let's say an alien? Because I've seen lots of people draw other people at the Louvre.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was wondering, can you make if you draw a person,
Yeah.
can you make it into like an alien or?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that's the sort of features to make it look more alienist. You know, that's what you mean.
Yeah, it's sort of like putting on a costume, you know? And it's, you know, I give this example right here, Alex, where like in this character right here, you know, there's human parts. You know, I'll show the camera.
Looks more like a gargoyle to me.
Well, that was the assignment. Yeah, the assignment was to draw some sort of gargoyle. But as you see it, he's got like human-looking legs. But answering Alex's question,
They know that, Russell.
but then I went ahead and incorporated sort of like this tiger-looking skin on the human-looking legs, and then giving him like real human ribs. So yeah, it's like putting on a costume or putting a costume on somebody else. Once you know your anatomy, or know how to draw a person, yeah, you can draw directly over that drawing and begin to add more like creature-like details. And and this is a completely different subject for now, but it's tangential, but that's creature design. And a lot of schools in the area teach creature design, where it's all about combining everything from humans to animals, creating those as one, and coming up with a brand new creature out of it, you know? Or maybe taking two different animals, like a cat and a rhinoceros or something, and like mixing the two and creating a brand new monster, you know? So yes, back there.
Last question, by the way. Out of everything organic you've drawn, like character-wise, what's the hardest organic? What's the hard thing that's organic you've ever drawn, like the basis of it?
I would say the head. The head's probably the hardest thing to draw.
That's what you mean. Like what animal, like poisoning or whatever was it? So.
Well, just as far as just to answer your question directly, it's the head is probably one of the to draw someone's head and get a likeness. Like anyone can draw a circle and put two dots right in the middle and a smiley face and get a smiley face, right? Right. But when you start actually going in and drawing somebody, and you want someone else to be able to look at that picture and see, oh, that's Ben Kingsley, or that's Tom Cruise, like, because you drew it so well, you know, those. So talking organics, yes. And the second thing are hands.
Oh yes, hands. I've heard that one.
Hands and head are like two of the toughest things to get like. Yeah, to draw, and I'd almost tack feet on there as well.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks for coming, Chris.
Is that it?
Appreciate it. Yeah.
All right.